Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Front Row with Jelani Stokes on this Tuesday, April 26, 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Jelani Stokes. Yes, you could call me Mr. Entertainment, but I will not take that moniker away from the late, great Sammy Davis Jr. But you know what? That's how I think of myself because I'm always loving to entertain the folks. So I hope you guys are doing well out there today. I've been doing pretty well myself. And nothing really coming up, but I do have something that I want to just let you guys know and remember that, ladies and gentlemen, we have Front Row here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. We do a front row here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. where I get to talk about some of my favorite topics that may come to mind. I might find something, or you may have something. And if you do have something, ladies and gentlemen, there is an email address for that. Just go to askjelanistokes@gmail.com. Again, that is askjelanistokes@gmail.com. Go ahead, send in your questions, and I will answer them live on the air on this show. Because, sometimes you guys, see my videos and you guys want to, send a message or add a comment, and you guys have fantastic comments. And to tell you the truth, sometimes I think you guys actually come up with some really, really good, great discussion topics, but I can't elaborate on it because at the time you send it, either I'm not around to immediately respond, or for whatever reason, when I respond, I don't get it back. So if you want to have a nice discussion all together, all at one, then make sure you send your questions to me live here at askjelanistokes@gmail.com. All right. So with that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you it is now time for one of my top segments, thanks to one of my groups. This segment I like to call I Want You to Know. I Want You to Know. Ladies and gentlemen, today, and I kept that going. There we go. So, what do I want you guys to know? Well, honestly, so I've been working hard on just getting some new reaction videos. Some of the songs that you guys have been requesting, I've been recording. And it's easy. I've gotten much easier and got it down to a formula where I can get these videos finished, but it's still a process. So, as I was getting these videos finished, and I was thinking to myself, man, I don't have a lot of time, and I got to get this one out, and I got to get this one out by this time. So I said, why not do a bass video? Why not play bass? Because I love playing bass, and I love, doing those bass jams, and it's something that I haven't done in a while. So I said, why don't we make this week Bass Week, where I get to just play my bass, release some bass jam videos, and then we get to talk about some of my favorite people in the whole wide world, in the music world, all week. And I think, man, that's a winner. So that's what I want you guys to know. I'm happy to bring these back to you. Once again, check out that song, I Want You to Know, by First Cousin, written and produced by yours truly. If you enjoy it, please check it out. Show us some love, because we enjoyed doing that song for you. Okay. All right. Now, I know you guys have come here for the main event. So here's the main event, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about the top bass players of all times. And let me just let you know that all of these lists are subjective, and all of these lists are lists that I borrow from others, and particularly one site that does a lot of these. And I don't make these lists. Okay. So if your beef's with the list, don't look at the description. That's who you should send all your angry comments at. Oh man, what? Because I was getting ready to do that, because with some of these I had some issues. But all right, so here's what we're going to do. Without further ado, we're going to talk about from this post. Let me get the information for you real quick. Okay, this is another one from ledgernote.com. This is the 10 best bass players of all time. Once again, this is from Ledger Note, the top 10 bass players of all time. So let's get it rocking right now. Okay. Yeah, all right. These are the top 10 bass players. 10, John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin. Yes. All right. Number 9, JACO Pastorius. Yes, that boy was bad. All right. Number 8 on this list is Victor Wooten. I mean, I'm telling you, that man knew what to do with that bass, okay? Real talk. All right, next one goes to Geddy Lee. This man was on fire with slapping that bass. Whoo! I'm gonna tell you, I like him a lot. Stanley Clarke, man, he was a pioneer, and he really has a lot to do with a lot of music you hear out there today. Number 5 is Les Claypool. I love his style, and he's just eccentric, and I love that about him. Okay, and then going to number 4, Larry Graham. He is the godfather of the slap bass, ladies and gentlemen. And number 3, this is sacrilege. We're going to talk about this. Mr. James Jamerson, Motown royalty. Enough said. Number 2, one of my favorites, Flea. Oh, I love Flea's bass playing, and I love his intensity. And ladies and gentlemen, number 1, John. Okay, sorry. It's funny. I messed up his name. If you want to do that in the comments, it's okay. I was practicing this, and I know you guys know it. So, hey, I messed up. I made a mistake. It's all good. But I do know he plays for The Who and pioneer for bass players. Okay. That is the top 10 list. Okay. So here are my initial. Wait, let me get this. I want the camera on me. There we go. My initial thoughts, no, and no. Those are my initial thoughts. Now, let me say this. Every bass player on that list is well-deserving. They're all bad boys. They all can really make that lower end work, okay? But I have some issues with some of the lists, okay? But before we go through, let me kind of explain my thinking. And here's the problem that I see with a lot of these lists. A lot of these lists, if you're going to be, it's hard to be non-subjective. It's hard to come into it with the natural mindset because we all have grown up, indoctrinated in a certain particular genre of music, whether you want to believe it or not. Okay. So you are going to lean towards one side of music versus the other. Now, I'll tell you this right now. I love all music. I can find any song. You can give me any song out there. You can give it to me, and I can find something about it I like. Doesn't mean I'll like the song, but I'll find something about it I can like and I can enjoy because I like music and I love the elements of music. But still, I'm subjective. I grew up around lots of funk and R&B and jazz and just that type of urban music. So when you get to rock and you get to country and you get to metal and you get to all these other genres, I love them, but I'm going to skew one way. So that's one disclaimer, okay? A second disclaimer for me is one thing about rock bass that I noticed is like rock bass a lot of times is basically octaving the main guitar lick a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times. So it just kind of compounds the layer to make that melody even stronger. So the bass is really, really hitting underneath the pad. It's really just there to really give support. So to me, a lot of those bass players, to me, and this is me, and I want people to understand this. If you disagree, please put in the comments. Those bass players, to me, kind of don't get up higher on my list because they're not doing anything to really accentuate the song more than just adding more support to the overall main idea. That's all they're doing. And that nothing wrong with it. That's the style. But to me, a bass player is one of the most thankless jobs. It's one of the most thankless, but the most important job in a band. And I think you've got to strike that right balance between support, but then also being able to lightly stand out so people can pick the bass out. I'm gonna tell you, I listen to a lot of rock songs sometimes. I can't pick out the bass because the bass is layering the guitar so well. So, there's something to be said for that skill. But for me, I like a bass player And on this list, the bass player has to bring something new to the table almost that other bass players pick up and then embellish. And to me, there's a few on this list that absolutely do that. There are some on this list that to me are just ridiculously good bass players, and that's it. They're not adding anything new, at least in my view. Like if I was to listen to them, they're not adding something to what I do or what I want to do. It's just like, okay, that's cool. So we're going to go over the list one by one, and then I'm going to talk about some of my picks, people who were left off. Okay. So let's go back to the beginning. Okay. And we're going to do a side shot because I want to do this with it. Okay. So check this out. So we're going to go back through this list, and I'm going to go through those, but I wanted to go through that list real quick. So top bass players of all time. So let's check this out. John Paul Jones of the legendary Led Zeppelin. Now, let me say this. Out of all the people on this list, this is the one I have the most trouble with, okay? I'm going to say this again because some people are going to just get on me like, oh, he's a bad boy on the bass. I'm going to say this again. He's a bad man on the bass, okay? I'm not going to take that away from him. But today and yesterday, I got reacquainted with him and a lot of his bass playing. And I'm just going to tell you, it's a lot of what I just described, a lot of just playing along with the overall pad, not distinguishing themselves. But once again, that's what the bass does. The bass is the support section of the band. For those of you who don't know, in jazz, and a lot of the jazz mentality kind of moved into pop to some degree. The bass player sets the tempo. The bass player sets the pulse in the pocket, along with the bass player sets the tone of the music, meaning he sets the chord, he sets the tonality, or she, sorry. We got to use both because we got a bad female bass player we're going to talk about later. So, but bass players are always so laid back and forgotten about and whatnot. And I feel like he fits that traditional mode of I'm going to just hang back and play bass and be a great support and just make sure the band is awesome. And I'm not going to get out there. But for me, he didn't do enough for me to really say, man, yeah, whew, that's a bad boy. So great bass player, never going to take nothing away from him. But if there was one, he would be it. Okay, so keep it moving. All right, number 9. This is one of my favorites, Mr. JACO Pastorius. Whoo! Okay, so here's how I got on JACO. When I went to college, my band director at the time at Tiffany University, he got me introduced to JACO Pastorius because he was really interested in my bass playing because I had started playing bass in high school, freshman year. So I've been playing about 4 years. And he was just interested in trying to develop, my chops. So he said, I want you to listen to this guy. So I listened to him, and I'm going to tell you the one, and this is why I would keep him on this list. First, JACO, if you get a chance to listen to his story, he came out just with bravado, just like, man, I'm the baddest bass player in the world. And he backed it up. JACO, to me, at least from my perspective, was one of the first individuals to use the bass as a lead instrument. In his time with Weather Report, go listen to Birdland. He's the one doing. He's not doing the bass. He's not doing the bum 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 bum. He's not doing that. He's doing the lead on the bass. He had such a fluidity and just a comfortability all over. It was almost like an extension of his body. And he truly, truly could go from regular bass player to lead, like I'm going to just express how I feel using the bass, but still keeping that bass player mentality. Oh my God, he was fantastic. I think he's too low on this list. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. That's one of my buddies. So stick with this. You're going to learn some lessons about some bass players today. All right. So number 8, Mr. Victor Wooten. I'm going to tell you, he's a bad boy. I can't take nothing away from him. When I was in college, same college, about my junior year, we had another guy come in. He was a bass player too. He actually took over for me in the school pop band that we were playing. Voluntarily because I wanted to sing, so I let him have it. But he's probably a better bass player than I was at the time, and he might be even now because he's even more of a bass head than I am. And I got to give him credit for that. Shout out to you, Jake. He was one who introduced me to Victor Wooten, and I was like, dude, whoa, that boy with the just all over the place. And I mean, he like is another one like JACO, who really took the instrument and took it to another level as far as no longer relegating it to a background supportive instrument. He was really one to say, hey, a bass could do this too, and we could stand out and we can be in front and in charge. So Victor Wooten, bad boy, love him. So that's number 8. I'm not going to argue with that one. That's a good choice. Okay, so we're going to move on to Geddy Lee. Okay, so all right, confession. Yesterday and today was the first time I listened to Geddy Lee. Okay, once again, R&B funk kind of guy. So certain genres, unless I'm directly introduced to it by somebody, I'm gonna kind of miss it. So first time I heard about him, I'm gonna tell you, I listened to some of his music. This boy's bad because he was one of the other ones. I was like, I don't know. I got some other ones I want up there, but when I heard him, when I was listening to him play, and I'm gonna tell you in particular, YYZ, I said, oh yeah, he deserves every bit of this list. That boy, whew, I'm gonna tell you, one of my favorite styles is slap bass. Okay, slap bass is just so amazing because it literally gives the bass a whole nother dimension. Because a lot of times when we're playing bass, you've got this nice warm, fat sound to support the chords that you're playing. Slap bass really came out. When that came, it just made the instrument more percussive, and you can almost, and we're gonna get to a guy who did this. There are certain people who are so bad on slapping the bass, they don't need a drummer because the percussiveness that they create, slapping and popping the bass, creates the percussive effect. And at that point, you really don't need a drummer. So I was listening to him. I said, dude, he's a bad boy. And some of those lines were just unbelievable. So yes, number 7. He's on this list. I give it to him. I'm not gonna take that away. All right, so let's go to number 6 is Stanley Clarke. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Stanley Clarke. I'm gonna tell you, so versatile. And one thing you guys don't know, he was a fantastic, notable songwriter. And I know a lot of Stanley Clarke from Luther Vandross because they used to collaborate all the time. In fact, one of my all-time favorite songs, Never Too Much, is Stanley Clarke. So they were collaborators for a very long time. So I always enjoyed his style of bass playing. And even though I may not have studied him enough, if you're a bass player, you hear of certain bass players all the time. You're always hearing certain names. Stanley Clarke was always a name I heard. It's well deserved. Number 6, okay? So let's go on to the next one. All right, number 5 is Les Claypool. So here's my funny Les Claypool story. Okay, so I remember Les Claypool, at least the name, from watching Metallica's Behind the Music. Okay, and they were talking about when Cliff Barton had passed away. They were looking for a brand new bassist before I think Newstead, Jason Newstead, yeah, came in. Les Claypool auditioned for him, and he made this joke like, "Hey, you want to play some Isley Brothers?" And they kind of looked. He said he looked at him like, and he's like, "Yeah, nobody got my joke, and they didn't call me." So I just remember that because he was just kind of silly. So when I saw him on the list, like, oh, another one, I was just like, until I heard him play. I became an immediate fan. This boy is bad. Another slap bass monster. This man is a bad boy, and he knows how to tickle those strings. Okay, so I'm not gonna take that away from him. So there you go. Number 5. Okay, number 4. Mr. Larry Graham. He had the Larry Graham Central Station, ladies and gentlemen, of he's on the top of Sly Stone. Yes, he was one of the members of Sly Stone. And I can't remember the band's name. I'm doing terrible today, but trust me, Sly Stone, he was the bass player for them. Okay, so this is gonna bother me so much. Oh, Sly in the Family Stone. There we go. I got it. I'm sorry, I get like that where I can't remember some stuff. This is the father or grandfather or godfather, any particular term you want to use, of the slap bass. He is credited with the one who kind of developed the style of slap bass. For that alone, he should be nowhere lower than 3. How many of these individuals that we're going to talk about utilize slap bass as their almost number one go-to playing style? That aggressive, that very tingy, poppy type of sound you get from popping and slapping the bass. This is the man who came up with it, who actually introduced it as a style to play. Because before then, it's all finger style. There was none of this going on. There was none of that. It was all finger style. Okay. And yes, because of that, I think he deserves to be maybe a little higher. I'll give 4, but I will tell you, 2 people at the top. We're gonna get to that. So Larry Graham, number 4. Okay. Okay. Wait. Okay. I need to calm myself down because when I saw this, I almost said words. Literally said words, bad words. This is atrocious, a travesty. It makes me really think about, if you are doing a list, are you truly a bass player? If you don't have this man as number 1, I'll say that again. This man deserves to be nothing lower than number 1. James Jamerson is the godfather of the modern bass playing, period. Paul McCartney, Sir Paul McCartney, listed him as an influence. He didn't even know who he was because Motown back then never listed the musicians. They were just the Funk Brothers. Okay, so back up. For those of you who are not familiar, James Jamerson was part of the Funk Brothers, the legendary backing band of Motown, who played on all of the classic Motown songs during the Motown Hitsville era. So what James Jamerson introduced to bass players was bass playing and bass lines could now start to be more melodic. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, so for you music theory nerds, if we are talking about a lot of chord progressions, one of the most famous chord progressions we can come up with is 1, 4, and 5. So as a bass player, you would mostly be playing the root, which is number 1, or the 5th. So do, re, mi, fa, so. So you'd be do, so, do, so, do, so, do, do, so, so, do. That's what that was kind of what you would do. What James Jamerson introduced was, okay, if you're reading a lead sheet and you're seeing all the chords, okay, you're not just playing the root of the chord and then go to the next root of the chord and just wait to that. He would find ways to work his way up or down to those chords using the scale within that key of the chord. And he would create these beautiful melodic bass lines that not only were fantastic to listen to, they didn't overtake the song and they fit completely. He revolutionized the idea of what it meant to be a bass player. Shame on them, number 3. That's ridiculous, man. I'm sorry. Okay. Even Rolling Stone, they did their top 50. He was number 1. Anybody I've ever talked to, any bass player I've ever talked to, if there's one name, hey, how you doing? If there's one name they all know, James Jamerson, the legend. I still don't think he gets enough credit and enough recognition. He's my favorite. I don't care. He's my number 1. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is going to overtake him because of the impact he's had on bass players like me. Hearing his bass lines. I mean, My Girl. I Was Made to Love Her. a majority of the four tops. And then, okay, and the legendary story about him is he played What's Going On by Marvin Gaye laying on his back. And he a lot of us use two fingers to play. He did a lot of these with one finger. They call it the hook. One. And I mean, this man was so disrespected. I mean, I can get emotional now. You know, the story goes, you know, his bass playing style fell out of favor in the 70s because it was getting to be more aggressive with the Larry Graham slap, you know, technique. His playing style kind of just fell to the wayside. So he wasn't getting work. By that time, Motown had kind of became a regular company. In 1983, when they had Motown 25, the 25th anniversary of Motown, they brought all of these stars back who were either left or were still, they had this great show. This man had to buy a ticket from a scalper and sit in the balcony to listen to all of this music he personally contributed to and played. And then he died not too long after that. And somebody stole his famous bass, and it's never been found. This man's, it burns me up to think about how he was treated and how he never got the recognition he deserved before he passed away. He deserved it, and he never got it. And I'm going to keep moving because I'm about to get emotional because that man is wonderful. Okay, keep it moving. You didn't see that. I got a little bit, but Flea. Okay. No, I love Flea. I love Flea. That boy is bad. I love his energy. And I'm going to tell you, one of my favorite songs is their cover, Red Hot Chili Peppers cover of Higher Ground by Stevie Wonder. Dude, I heard boom, da, boom, da, I was like, dude, yeah. Bad boy. Not number 2. Sorry. That is ridiculous. Okay. Not before Larry Graham. Not before James Jamerson. No. I will say this again. I love Flea. One of my favorites. No. No. Moving on. That's my boy, though. I love him. Great guy. Not number 2. Sorry. Okay, and then I'm not gonna even try to pronounce his name. I'm gonna figure it out later. I ain't gonna do it right now. No. Okay, I listen to him too, and I know like my generation, he got this wonderful bass line. And I will tell you, I really studied him, and I was trying to find like what was it about him that made him number 1, and I couldn't figure it out. He's great. He's a bad boy. I loved hearing some of his bass lines. To me, like I said, I'm biased because I'm an R&B funk kind of guy. It doesn't surpass James. At the least, he doesn't surpass James Jamerson. That ain't happening, man. I'm sorry. No. Okay, so that's their list. They had some honorable mentions, and I had some too. So I'm going to talk about some of my honorable mentions, okay, or theirs. So honorable mentions and unforgivable omissions. That's how I term this. Unforgivable omissions. Now I read the end of he's like, hey, there were so many bass players that I couldn't put on here. I'm like, give me a break. Some of the people you put on there didn't need to be on there. So let's keep it moving. Okay. Charles Mingus, fantastic jazz bass player. I mean, this man was a pioneer on just really revolutionizing the way that, you know, you would really play bass within a jazz setting. Okay. No. Jack Bruce. Okay. This is a bad boy too. Okay, so if you guys get a chance, wait. No. See, somebody didn't stop it. And I blame one of you guys out there in TV land watching me, but that's okay. You're still my buddies. Jack Bruce. Okay, for those of you, Jack Bruce was the bass player for Queen. I said Queen. Cream with Eric Clapton and Ginger Baker. Okay, so if you guys get a chance, and sorry, if you hear me, I'm a little congested, so I apologize for that. But if you listen to Cream's Crossroads, This is one of the greatest examples of two people just going crazy musically, but it all comes together. Like, somebody had just commented on my Crossroads video. I did a reaction video. If you want to check it out, check that one out. That I told him, like, it was an amazing feat where Jack Bruce was just playing his heart out, but it completely complemented what Eric Clapton was doing. Bad boy. Yes, gotta give him some credit. Okay. All right. And next one. How can you leave off Carol Kay? She was okay. This woman literally played on so many recordings. She was a session recorder, and I'm trying to remember. Um, they had they literally. Okay, yeah, I got it. They had a name for all of these studio musicians who lived in Los Angeles. They were called the Wrecking Crew. Okay, she was part of the Wrecking Crew, and she was the bass player on a lot of just unbelievable songs. You know, we're talking Quincy Jones, we're talking the Beach Boys, we're talking the OJs, we're talking Glenn Campbell, the Monkees, Joe Cocker. I mean, Nancy Sinatra. I mean, Neil Young. You can keep going on. She was laying the low end down, and you're telling me that because of that, and the fact that if you want to keep it real, and you want to look at that list, not one of them is a woman. And let's keep it even more real. Back then, she was a pioneer because that was literally a boys' club. And she was able to go in there and not only go in there, but go on there on an instrument that was considered to be a manly instrument. And she held it down. And you're going to leave her off the list. I'm not even gonna say that. I'm gonna keep my thoughts to myself. I'm not gonna go there. Be nice, okay? All right. So those were, and then I love this man, Donald Duck Dunn. To me, he's like the James Jamerson of the South. Okay. So one day I might do a video where I'm gonna kind of talk about the difference between Motown and Stax Records. Okay, because they were both big, African American music factories, okay, and they produced a lot of R&B and just hard soul music, okay, but where Motown's sound was a lot more jazzier, had a lot more um extensions of chords using ninths and sevenths to really happy up the chords a little bit and majors. Stax's music was just like hard, gritty down, just get nasty soul music. And that was kind of where they laid their hat on. And Donald Duck Dunn was the man for Stax Records. Also, if you got to see the movie, The Blues Brothers, one of my favorite movies, he was part of the Blues Brothers band, the backing band that played behind them, not just in the movie, but actually when they went out and performed, he was the bass player for the band. And I just remember watching the movies like dum, 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 and he was just laying it down. And I'm telling you, one of the greatest things I love about bass players and and also to drummers, just because bass and drummers are usually like this. I love a bass player or a drummer who could just stay in that pocket, and especially a bass player, because their main job at that point, you could tell, is just keeping that pocket, keeping that thing going, because that's our job as a bass player. Your job is to keep that pocket. I can't tell you how many times I've been playing with one of my bands at the time, and then the drummer would do a solo and he would just go crazy, and it's up to me to keep that pulse, that pocket, so when he comes back, it's there. That's what he did. Bad man, great bass player. Okay, love him. So we're gonna get to some of mine. Okay, here are some of my personal favorites. Mr. Bernard Edwards. Okay, so for Bass Week, if you guys have been paying attention, I just released a video yesterday on "He's the Greatest Dancer" by Sister Sledge. Now, for me, although Sister Sledge sang it, that's a chic song because that was produced by Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards. What I love so much about Bernard Edwards was that his bass playing was meticulous, it was creative, but it was simple and it got out of the way. It was never over domineering where it became a distraction. Listen to all of his bass lines. Go to all of their songs. I mean, if you want to talk, I want your love. Or, good times. I mean, it's melodic but simple, and it's consistent. And because it's consistent, it blends in because he's not always drawing attention to himself with maybe some of the more percussive styles. Bernard Edwards, he doesn't get enough credit for the way he would lay grooves down. Great bass player, okay? One of my favorites. Okay, next. Now, this man would be on my top 10. Mr. Louis Johnson. They called this man Thundering Thumbs. Anytime I'm teaching string instruments to my class and we get to guitars, I show a video of this man sitting in a chair, and he was doing an instruction video. And this man is literally popping and slapping. He's like, and he's just going crazy with it. I was like, oh my. And he was such a beast on the slap bass. He was just amazing. And for those of you who do not know, if you are a fan of Michael Jackson, that's the man who played his most famous bass line, Billie Jean. He played it. Story goes, while they was recording it, he brought so many basses to play, and he played through all of them until Michael and Quincy decided that was the one, and then he played the famous bass line. So one of the greatest slap bass players I've ever heard, by far. Okay, and I mean, not just playing, slap bass, but staying in that pocket, man, and staying in that groove. I just said, my God, yes, Mr. Louis Johnson. Okay, got to give him some love from the Brothers Johnson. Yes. Okay, now Jermaine Jackson. Yes, he's on this list. And here's the thing. People don't think about him as a bass player, but this boy was a bad man. And I put him on here because for me, if there was not Jermaine Jackson, I would never be playing bass today. Never. When I was in high school, I had a guitar, and I was kind of learning it, but I was being lazy too. We know how we get, right? So I was kind of learning it. I learned 3 chords, and I kind of learned how to play them well, and I got a little bored. So freshman year of high school, a sophomore was playing bass in the pit. And I was like, ooh, that's cool. And I was like, all right, cool. And then so we did marching band. Jazz band comes along, and I go up to my director, say, hey, I want to play guitar. Can I play guitar? And he said, well, we need a bass player. And it's like, but I thought he was playing. It's like, no, he didn't like it. He wanted to quit. So we need a bass player. Would you mind learning bass? I'm gonna tell you, I wasn't enthused. I wanted to play guitar, be like, I wanted to do all of that stuff. I didn't want to be a bass player because I already knew, first off, I didn't know many bass players. That's one. That should tell you something right there. I didn't know. 2, that was just such a low-key, just chill instrument. And if you get to see me live, go look at some of those acapella vids. Go look at me and look at how I'm performing. I am a ham. I'm a performer. I love to just be out there. That's not an out there instrument. That's number 2. Okay? But I acquiesced, and I said, okay, this is why. There's one person who popped in my mind when I said yes. It was this man, Jermaine Jackson. I was a big Jackson 5 fan back then, and I said, well, Jermaine played bass, so I guess I could play bass. So Jermaine Jackson is the one who got me on the bass guitar. So those are the top bass players of all time. Now, that was just that list from that article. Go check out I'll put the Rolling Stone article of the 50 best bass players, and I think that list is a lot more comprehensive, and I would agree with that list a lot more because I do believe they stick more people at the top who were revolutionary and really added something to the bass playing community. They really added a style that others would pick up on, enhance, and then incorporate versus some of the people on here, to me, didn't really do that. They were just ridiculously good bass players. But to me, they were just another really, 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 really good bass player. It's like, okay, that could just be anybody, within the community who just plays bass, and they're just a beast, but they just haven't gotten famous. So I dare you to check that one out. I dare you guys to go over that list. Once again, that's their list. If you're mad, go take up your problems with them, with that individual place. And I'm going to tell you where to direct your anger. So you guys won't be coming to me and be like, man, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, but like, what, that list is trash. Okay. Go to ledgernote.com. I'm going to say this again, ledgernote.com, top 10 bass players. That's who you should direct your anger at, not me. I'm just using that list as a talking point. Okay. All right. So with that said, thank you guys again. This is the top bass players of all time. Some of my all-time favorites were mentioned. And if you got anybody who was not mentioned, trust me, and as they said, there are some who are not mentioned. And we could talk about Cliff Barton. We could talk about Paul McCartney. We could talk about, let me see. I just had one off the top of my head. Bootsy Collins. That boy was bad. He was the one who he was in play with James Brown. James Brown introduced him to the one. So there's so many people that you could put up here, but that's that list. Those are the people that I enjoyed, and let me know what you think. Put it down in the comments. Okay. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, we do Front Row every Tuesday at 6 p.m. And we're going to talk about all type of different music subjects. And I got some good ones coming up very, very soon. And we're going to have some really great discussions coming up, okay? So until then, I'm just going to insist that you guys have a great day. But before I go, one more time, ladies and gentlemen, if you want your question answered live on this platform, on this show, please go to ask Jelani Stokes at gmail.com. Again, I said ask Jelani Stokes at gmail.com. Okay. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. My name is Jelani Stokes. This is Front Row, and I'm going to insist, first off, if you like what you hear, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to click that bell, that notification bell, so you know when a new video is dropping. Because remember, this week, Bass Week, all bass videos. I'm going to be jamming. I already got some ready to drop. I got some Kool in the Gang. I got some Queen. I got some BGs. I just got so many that I'm getting ready to drop this week. And then next week, we'll come back with some more reaction videos if that's what you're waiting for. And then we'll bring it to you. All right. So until then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Have a great night, and I'll see you. Yes, I will see you all, everybody, next Tuesday for the next Front Row. All right. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.